not mentioned very often in this whole weight loss, craze. So I'm trying to explain to people that our bodies can only metabolize 5 grams of glucose within the bloodstream. That's a teaspoon. And that's in the context of how your insulin works. So if you have 1 gram of carbohydrate, your pancreas has no problem to release 1 gram of insulin, to then take that glucose out of the bloodstream and have it delivered to cells to be used as energy. So 2 grams of glucose, 2 grams of insulin, no problem. Once you get up to 5, the brain can no longer do the math on insulin regulation. So the body will just start dumping insulin into the bloodstream if you have a glass of orange juice. And we've been taught that there's so much vitamin C in orange juice, it's so good for you, but that much glucose in the bloodstream at one time creates a panic response to the body. So your body starts dumping insulin into the bloodstream to get the glucose out so your cells don't glycate. Now, glycating is the damage of the cell lining, which is aging. So they call it advanced glycation end product. And this is what aging is. It's the damage of the cell lining, the protein of every cell of your body through too much glucose. So with cereal and processed carbohydrates, you're having to secrete more and more insulin into the bloodstream to get it out, to be delivered as energy or for cell use or for the brain. And after a while, you begin to develop insulin or pancreatic insufficiencies. And so on a ketogenic protocol, which is quite interesting, people like to tap into ketones. Now there is a big distinguish between low carb, high fat and a ketogenic protocol. So paleo is not ketogenic. Your body still runs on glucose, but you have more insulin or pancreatic regulation. So if you're coming from a processed carbohydrate reality, of course, people who are suffering from all the elements, all of the autoimmune disorders from too much glucose, which can be from a headache to being bloated to gout to sleep apnea, sleep issues, adrenal fatigue, thyroid disorder, IBS, colitis, Crohn's. There's so many issues to leaky gut, to allergies, to asthma, to rheumatoid arthritis, to osteoarthritis, all this inflammation within the body. There's a lot of people just don't think about the body in those terms. Now, all of us have some kind of metabolic issue because we've been raised around toxins and we've had processed carbohydrates. And so ketogenesis allows your body to not have to deal with that over 5 grams of glucose. So in the wild, if we were, and I'm jumping all over because there's so much to discuss on this subject in a short amount of time, so obviously when you guys have questions later, I will try my best to make kind of jumping around make sense. But I chose particularly to go keto because my mother had a glioblastoma, which is the most aggressive brain cancer. They gave her 3 to 6 months to live, and my brother and I were like, how do we stop cancer growth? And so, of course, you keep reading, cancer cells are motivated by too much glucose, and so we just start taking out her carbohydrates. And of course, we've heard about purines and uric acid and meat being too acidic, so it cut down her protein, and we cut down her carbohydrates. And then I thought, well, she's not eating anything. So I started reading more about upping her fat, hence ketogenesis. And she's still alive today. It's 8 years later. Yeah. So that was weird. The doctors were like, I don't know what you're doing. Her oncologist, like, they don't ask, what did you do? Because they were like, we found her burial plot, everything. They're like, she will not survive this. So she's still alive. So of course, I became consumed by this whole keto thing. And I'm going to jump backwards a bit to kind of compare what low carb, high fat is in keto. Because if I start going to keto, you guys are going to be like, what? Okay, so when you do a low carb, high fat protocol, you are not ketogenic. You are still dependent on glucose. You just have more glucose control, more insulin control. You now can regulate your insulin more in a healthy sense, if I put it if you have the damage from years of processed carbohydrates, then ketogenesis is an option to start healing the body. Okay, so let's say that the majority of you have some type of adrenal issue. So people are like, well, what do you mean? I talked to John Ralph the other day, and I was explaining, I was talking to Tim Noakes tomorrow, and I started explaining about, well, their take is, as long as you get rid of all the processed carbohydrates, that's a benefit. And I said, well, yes, but if you don't time your carbohydrates out perfectly on a low-carb, high-fat protocol, you can damage your adrenal glands. So your body is used to all of this stored glycogen. So a lot of people say you can't do sports, which obviously I'm athletic, I used to be a pro skateboarder, and I busted my knee. So I've had 10 surgeries on my left knee, a lot of inflammation. I've been able to regulate the inflammation through ketogenesis. But if I were still to be a carb burner, then I would have to time my carbohydrates out perfectly because my brain is primed and conditioned to run on carbs. So if you guys go do low carb and your glycogen is depleted, you guys do CrossFit, you can damage your adrenal glands even more. And so no one talks about this kind of stuff. No one talks about the circadian rhythm, no one talks about the adrenals, your thyroid, women with your thyroid, women, they have 2 days in 1 day. Men, they're more vasopressin driven, women are more oxytocin driven, women are the bonding hormone. We gotta take care of the family, we gotta make sure that everything's okay. Men are very linear, they think one direction, not all, I'm just generalizing. But a lot of women have those issues like thyroid, adrenal, estrogen dominance, digestive issues, IBS, and no one talks about this kind of stuff. You can't just do a low carb high protocol, low carb high fat protocol, and all of a sudden you're cured of all these things. Those things will just continue. So what I like to do is talk about health in every context, from women, older, younger. I will be 50 in 2017, and so